Honestly, I am just like being reckless with it. Going out, drinks. I'm a drinking man, Bailey. I'll be honest about that. It's a vice of mine.
Do we have any retirement accounts?
No, I got no savings, no retirement.
Do we have any taxable brokerage accounts?
No, none of the fancy stuff. I've never thought about retirement in my entire life. Clark, 27 years old, about to be 28, about 2 weeks. I am currently located in Brooklyn, New York.
And what do you do for a living up in New York?
I work in fundraising, so basically I do street canvassing around New York City, parts of Jersey. I sign people for memberships for, joining a charity.
And how much do you make a year doing that?
At my starting base, I have uncapped commission, but at my starting base, I would say it's about 45K.
45K, okay. And what is your commission look like on a monthly basis then?
On a monthly basis, well, last year I was doing a lot better than this year. The economy has been really hard this year for a lot of people to sign up, but I would say in general, when the spring and summer, fall come around, I would say I'm making about an average of 150 to 300 in bonus a week. So I've had some weeks where I've actually hit like maybe about 4 or 5. I've gotten like very lucky, but yeah, generally around like the 1 to 300 rank of my average weekly commission bonus. If I had to estimate on a good average year, yeah, I think last year I made just about like 50K.
So that's not the easiest thing to live off of than in New York City on $50,000, is it?
No, I mean, I feel like I've gotten my way through. I've been able to pay my bills and my groceries and been able to have my fun, but I still have a lot of the debt, like the credit cards and student loans. I have not been able to like really touch at all, except for like very, very little.
So on that, let's talk about your current financial situation. How would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10?
1 to 10? I'd give myself probably like a 6.5.
6.5. Credit card down on the table when you're putting yourself at a 6.5. That's a bold move right there.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about debts then. So debts, we have $43,000 worth of student loans, and we have $4,250 in credit card debt. Is that all the debt we have on the table right now?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably, credit card's probably about 4K now. It's made a payment recently, so yeah.
So credit cards, I'm not a fan of. So having credit card debt automatically, I would eliminate you from being above a 5. On the asset front, what assets do we have?
I have a car. It's unregistered. I'm planning on selling it soon.
How much do you think it's worth?
I just had a buddy of mine who's a mechanic look at it. If I get it fixed up a little bit, it's got some cosmetic issues, probably sell it for like 4K.
4K, okay. And how much in repairs will it need?
It's an 05 Camry, so at most, the parts and labors can not be more than like $500.
Okay, so I'll put it at $3,500, so $4,000 minus the $500 in parts. Do we have any retirement accounts?
No, I got no savings, no retirement.
Do we have any taxable brokerage accounts?
No of the fancy stuff.
Any crypto?
A couple of years ago, I had some crypto. I haven't really been doing the stocks crypto game for a while now.
Okay, so we got no investments then in savings. What do you have in your bank account right now?
Bank account right now, about $1,100, and then I get paid Friday, so that'll bump me back up to like $2,100.
Okay, so $1,100 in your bank account right now. So that puts your total assets about $4,600. Total debt's $47,000. So your net worth is negative $42,400. Have you ever calculated net worth before?
I have not.
What does that number say to you right now?
I'm pretty deep in there, deep in the negatives.
So would you still consider yourself a 6.5?
On the grand scheme of things like that, definitely not.
And so have you paid anything on your student loans over the last 4 or 5 years since you graduated?
I have not given them a dime.
You've not given them a dime?
No.
When those resumed last year, you just haven't made a payment since then?
Yeah, pretty much. So it's kind of like New York or pay off loans. It was a pretty difficult choice to make.
I guess that's one decision. Hey, pay the money back that you owe or go live in a fun city.
Yeah.
Okay. What are your long-term or short-term financial goals?
Definitely I want to get my credit cards paid off as soon as possible. My plan is right now, I'm just paying off that minimum payment until December when the interest accrues. And then whatever amount I have in my checking account, I'm going to put as much of a lump sum towards that as possible. And if I can't pay the whole thing off, I'll transfer the balance to another card that doesn't have interest for a while so I can keep that at bay so I'm not overpaying for that. And then obviously, down the road, want to get savings, want to be able to save up for stuff. I've only been in the city for 2 years, so I feel like I'm still figuring out like my life path and my goal out here. I have some stuff in mind, but I've never ever been the person that's always been like, I have a 5-year plan. I just know like within the next 6 months to a year where I'm trying to head towards. So I wouldn't say a long-term savings plan other than just like the general stuff that people want, retirement savings, all that.
Okay, so on the credit card debt, I want to touch on a few things. So sounds like that's in a 0% APR introductory period right now, the $4,000 that ends in December. How long has it been your plan of, hey, let's save money in your checking account and then throw that at the lump sum before that ends?
So, I mean, like a lot of that was a huge part of it was 2 years ago. I had a job where I was on 1099 for. And so I got hit with those taxes like very, very heavily because I made a lot within 6 months. So that's where a lot of that credit card debt came from, was putting off those taxes. Then just, individual needs and payments I had just kind of accrued out of nowhere. And while I was starting this new job, I wasn't like making a whole lot of money. I was slowly paying off other debt. So I just tacked on a bunch of debt on that card to just keep myself at bay. So now I'm realizing, the cost of that, where it's, brought me to at this point.
So what's the rationale? I guess my question is, instead of throwing money at the credit card debt right now versus, like you're saying, you're trying to save money until December, then throw it at the credit card debt then, versus, okay, you have $200 left over each month, throw that at the credit card debt right now. What's the thought behind that?
Well, so the thought of that is also the fact that my job is performance-based. So there could be, God forbid, there's a window where I go on for a couple of weeks to a month or so where I'm not hitting my quota. And then, they have to pull me aside and be like, okay, you're not hitting your target, yada, yada. Something could happen. So it's definitely a part of my job. It's definitely a part of also I'm thinking about whether I'm going to stay at this place I'm living in now, maybe move to a place that's a little bit cheaper than where I'm staying at now. So there's other sort of dilemmas at hand that I'm just waiting for the end of the year to play out until I can like really get myself financially secure on stuff.
I'm not the biggest fan of playing the credit card game with like 0% APR and like, hey, I'm going to just balance transfers because balance transfers don't solve the problem. It's just kind of a Band-Aid. And I guess you mentioned that, hey, you're going to try to save money and dump it on the credit card at the end of the year. And I would say if that's been your plan for more than a couple months, it's not working because we have $1,000 in savings right now. And like, if you have like $4,000 or $5,000 in your savings and you're like, okay, job insecurity, something, then you don't want to pay it off right now. Okay, that could be a discussion. Right now, we're not saving money each month. So you're better off forcing yourself to pay an extra $200 towards a credit card every single month. Worst case in my eyes is like, okay, say you paid on the credit card $3,000 between now and December. And say you job insecurity, whatever. Worst case, the credit card balance goes back up. Best case is you paid it down and it stays down.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. No, I mean, I recently just enrolled in the new, the SAFE plan for the student debt, so my interest is not growing as much as it used to, thank God.
So what is your current budgeting process?
Usually I budget weekly for travel expenses, for groceries, for any sort of unexpected things that may happen. I really have not been going out as much as I used to. Like this summer especially, I was inside like a lot. I mean, or I just had like, friends over. Did not spend a whole lot of money going out, but there were a couple times in the summer where I threw like a lump sum of cash towards, credit cards or for other payments. So I had stuff that I had to take off of.
Do you use a budgeting tool or app, or do you just look at your bank statements? How do you budget?
I don't do a whole lot of very concise, expansive budgeting. I just make sure I keep like certain caps on what I'm spending for groceries or for going out, the stuff like that's very like in the moment.
Okay. I would suggest, I'm a big fan of spreadsheets. I'm a big fan of budgeting apps, but having like an actual detailed budget so that you can know, hey, this is how much I exactly spend on groceries. This is exactly how much I spend going out. But if you don't actually track the exact dollar amount, then when we look at your bank statement, this is only for like 2 weeks. There's like 5 or 6 pages worth of transactions. And it's very difficult to see, okay, how much did you actually spend on food last month?
Yeah, for sure.
So looking at your budget, so your rent right now is $1,050. Do you have roommates right now?
Yeah, 3 other roommates.
Okay, great. 3 roommates, just over $1,000. Transportation, you didn't put anything, but I think you pay for the subway in New York, so I'm sure that costs a little bit of money. You got subscriptions, $20, eating out $300, entertainment $200, personal care $50, shopping $150. So your total fund money is $720, and your total living expenses $1,770. Do you not buy groceries?
I get groceries.
How much do you spend a month on groceries?
I mean, if I go to Aldi's, I'm saving some more money. Usually I can get like a week's worth of food there for maybe $60 to $80, give or take.
Okay, so 60 to 80, so somewhere in the 240 to 320. So I'll put 300 because we're always underestimate typically. So that moves your like total living expenses closer to like $2,100, and you should be making about $2,500 a month after taxes, at least, just on the base pay, like $2,500 to $3,000. Okay, so you should have money left over every single month if you're living in these ballparks. So what's happening to all the extra money then?
Honestly, I am just like being reckless with it.
Being reckless? What are you spending it on?
Going out, drinks. I'm a drinking man, Bailey. I'll be honest about that. It's a vice of mine.
So the eating out is probably not $300 then. If you tallied up your entire last month of expenses, it's probably a couple $100 more than I would guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, also, like, with my job, I'm out in the streets a lot, so I rack up expenses on buying, like a protein bar, coffee, or, stuff to keep me energized, to keep myself out there, because I'm talking to hundreds of people, all day for 7 hours.
My point to that is whether it's those snacks, whether it's going out with friends, like tracking those budgets and those expenses to a T, you'll see, okay, maybe you spent $700 last month. I don't know what it is because I don't have the full statement period, but you might think you're spending $300 like you put on the document, but it might be $700. So that's like, okay, that's identifying number one to get out of credit card debt. We need to cut this back. Maybe it's not spending $700, cut it back to $400, and that's $300 more each month you can use to pay off your credit card debt. You can make some serious headway over that in the next 3 to 4 months using that. So that's why in my opinion, it's very important to track. So what do you think some of your biggest financial mistakes you've made in your life are?
Definitely just all throughout college, being dragged into one social situation after another. So whether, it's going out or going to a concert or festival, or even if it is staying in, still ordering, food and drinks for the party that you're hanging out with, whatever it be. So I think a lot of my financial mistakes just came from reckless entertainment options.
So did the credit card debt start in college?
No, actually, the credit card debt did not start until after college. I originally had a Quicksilver card. I paid that one off completely. But after I bought my car, I got it from this guy where I found out it needed about $1,500 worth of repairs, maybe more. So that started on the Quicksilver. Then in the process of moving out here, being unemployed for the first bit, I put a lot of expense on that, played the whole transfer game with that for a while, finally just paid that off back like in the spring. So now that $4K is spread across 2 different cards, one Discover and a Chase card. So
And you mentioned you're not using those cards anymore, correct? You haven't used them in 3 months?
So I actually just used the Chase card. I bought some acting classes with that for a level 2. So I took an acting level 1, started this year, this with the same instructor. So I was like, I know I shouldn't be doing this, but I want to look on this. It was $250 for 8-week course.
$250?
Yeah.
Why didn't you use the cash in your checking account for that?
Because the other credit card was...
No, not the credit card, your cash. You got $1,000 in your bank account right now.
Yeah, I know that. I put it on the Chase card because that one has an APR that does not expire until the end of next year. So I have plenty of time for the interest to not accrue on that.
Yeah, but I don't care about the 0% interest game. I care about not having credit card debt.
Yeah, it was just the fact that I wanted to keep my account to have, a lofty amount in it just in case something were to happen that I do need. So I feel like with this is something that's long term, and I've been knocking down that credit card debt and that Chase card really, really low. So that card's not as maxed out as the other one is.
So if you want to get a credit card debt and you have credit card debt, the number one rule is don't spend money on your credit card. And you're going against that. So if you want to pay off credit card debt, you can't decrease your credit card balance if you're spending money on your credit card and not throwing more money at it. I'm not a fan of using the credit card at all when you're in credit card debt, because that leads to one decision that you spend $250. Then guess what? You open that leaky bucket because you told me 3 days ago you hadn't used the card in 3 months, and you went the next day swiped an acting class on it, and you opened up that door. The door is creaked open right now, and next week you're gonna try to open it a little bit more and a little bit more. You need to close that shut and stop spending on it, and then get out of debt. And then, okay, you can use your cash to afford these things if you truly need it. That means maybe you need to hustle more for work. Maybe that's something you treat yourself when you get a bonus at work and you hustle for that. But you're opening up that door right now, and that's just going to lead to more bad decisions. And then who knows what's going to happen? Maybe it's December, maybe it's next year that you try to do a balance transfer and maybe you can't get approved for one of those, or you have an unexpected life expense that you needed something happen, and you can't pay that card down, you start paying 20, 30% interest rate on those credit cards. And that's what I don't want. That's why I'm never a fan of using a credit card when you have credit card debt, because you've proven that, hey, you can't utilize credit cards properly if you are carrying a balance on them. So let's eliminate that problem altogether and not spend on them. Can you go another 90 days without using that credit card?
Oh, at this point, yeah. It was just I wanted to definitely take these classes for a while, so I decided I was just going to nip it in the butt and just put it on that credit card.
So what you should do, in my opinion, is if you spend that money, $250, go make a $250 payment immediately from your checking account so that balance does not go up. Yes, will that put you below $1,000 in your savings? Yes. Will that stress you out maybe a little bit? Probably, but it's probably going to make you make smarter decisions this weekend of going out and spending money because you're going to get your balance back up to over $1,000. So that is what I'd be doing. I would not be wanting that credit card balance to be increasing at all, and I'd be paying it down.
Another thing that led to that decision is the end of this month, I am missing a week of work because I'm going out to Los Angeles for my brother's wedding. So another thing was that extra $250 or $300 that would be my check account, I'm not going to see now.
Is the plane paid for in cash? The flight?
Yeah, so my mom helped me out with that ticket. So she covered that, thank God.
So that's why also I guess that means if you're going out of town later this month for a wedding, that means, hey, the next 2 or 3 weeks, let's not, if we're spending $200 a weekend on entertainment and going out, cut it back to $100, cut it back to $50 so you can save up money for when you go out of town and you're missing that $600 paycheck, basically.
Yeah, and also the grooms and the suit. That was another part of the thing. I paid for that, so.
What is your plan, I guess, right now for retirement? Because that's something, I guess, going through your assets, you have zero in retirement right now. So what is your current plan for retirement?
I've never thought about retirement in my entire life.
And how come?
I don't really see a fulfillment outside of a financial level, on a much deeper, emotional, spiritual level. I just I see myself working. I mean, not to working to the grave, but I just feel at the same time I am still very young and I still have a lot of time ahead of me. So obviously I don't want to spend my time just being frivolous with my money, but I feel like the retirement thing, with just where I'm at in my life and where they say the economy is on a deeper level, it's not something that I'm just like, I need to get on top of this. I need to do it right now. Obviously, I think I will at a certain point get on top of it, and I will have it secure. Just not something I'm adamant about like right now.
Do you know how much it benefits you start thinking about retirement and making decisions today versus it does 15 or 20 years from now?
Oh, yeah. I'm aware.
You're aware? You know the data and how compound interest and everything works?
No, I've done the research in the past, but still it's not where I'm heading towards right now, my financial goals.
I don't think obviously like people's income grows over time and you can contribute more money to retirement as you get older, but it's good to start making decisions and building small habits today, whether it's $50 a month or $100 a month. Obviously pay off the credit card debt before you do this, but when you're out of credit card debt, start making those small little steps, because as your income increases, you already understand how to invest, you understand how that works, and it becomes part of your habit. So then it's a lot easier to grow and scale it. Say you start investing today, the Roth IRA is about $7,000 a year. So that's $583 a month. If you start investing $7,000 a year in your Roth IRA from now until you're 67, assuming a 7% rate of return, do you know how much money you'd have at 67?
Quite a bit.
$1.5 million. And if you wait until we'll say you push it off for 20 years, so you're 47, might be making more money, but say you still only contribute $7,000 a year, you'd have only $300,000 from 47 to 67. And so by starting today versus 20 years from now, that's going to benefit you $1.2 million. It's not a small amount of money. And I'm not saying, hey, you need to cut everything and start investing 50% of your income today. But I'm saying once you're out of credit card debt, start investing even $100 a month. That's going to go a long way. But it's, okay, what are some small steps I can take today to build a financial base? And that comes down to, okay, paying off credit card debt, understanding your student loans, what the interest rate is on that, and then 2 or 3 would be investing. And I would suggest starting with like a Roth IRA and index funds. And when you're out of credit card debt, okay, maybe it's $100 a month, maybe it's $50 a month, but at least starting small so you can see, okay, start building those financial principles. And then when you get the next promotion or pay raise, great, up it to $200, up it to $300, and slowly make that trek up to help just build your base. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Have you ever thought about that or doing that?
I mean, it's crossed my mind, but it's just not still, something I've ever truly had the financial stability or moment of clarity and peace to really put together and think about like that.
Yeah. I mean, I understand that, especially jumping from where you were to an expensive city in New York City, but I would suggest it's definitely something you need to start thinking about and just educating yourself and learning, because it's only going to help you later on in life. And I'm not saying you need to go all out at retirement, but building a base, because who knows, 40 years from now, who knows what the government's going to give you or not give you when you reach retirement age. So I don't want to depend on the government. I don't think you don't depend on the government either. So.
There is that.
Awesome. Well, what is the best piece of financial advice you've ever received?
It was probably don't get married.
Why is that?
I just hear so many tumultuous stories of just people having marriage not working out for them, or having, kids and family. And it's like, I hate to sound like I know what I want in life because I'm so young, but for the next 5 to 10 years, I do not see myself. I mean, maybe if I find somebody to have a partner, sure. As far as I definitely feel something true about, I don't see myself wanting to have kids. I just feel like that's never been my MO. Service something I go for. So I feel like if I were able to cut that future plan out, I'd have a lot more stability for myself and for what I want to accomplish personally. So also just, don't spend money on dumb stuff like extra concert tickets or unnecessary credit card debt. No.
Kids are not for everyone, and they are definitely expensive. And if you don't have a sound financial base, it can lead to a lot of debt or a lot of bad bad and poor decisions. What do you think the worst financial advice you ever received is?
Who cares how expensive it is? You'll make that money back. Yada, yada. We all heard that in college and in high school all the time.
Definitely so. And I guess you're kind of living that out with the acting classes then, because you spent, who cares, it's $250. I'll put it on the credit card. I'll pay it off in the next 12 or 18 months.
Yeah, and it's like an investment in the future,
It is, but also it's kind of living that same principles. Hey, I'll worry about it later. And that's typically how people find themselves in financial pickles, is when they say, I'll figure it out later. Or, hey, I don't need to worry about it now. It can just lead you to make poor financial decisions, I guess, at one point. So
Yeah.
awesome. What is one piece of advice, Clark, you'd give to someone else in a similar financial situation as yourself?
Would definitely be plan your budget better. Look at all your expenses. Look at what you're making. If you're not making X amount that you can barely pay rent, obviously don't buy your groceries at Whole Foods. Figure out somewhere else to go that's going to really suit your needs. You want to go to that 3-day festival. Obviously, that sounds great. That sounds fun. I would love to see those people too. But, you got to pay the rent. We got to pay the content first. So, yeah, I just think I'm guilty of not planning out my budget for sure. And just having my expenses just sort of be willy-nilly. I'll just cover this here because that's what I need here. I'll cover that because that's what I need then. But yeah, definitely need more future and premeditated planning and figuring stuff out.
Makes sense. I guess last question. What is your goal to get your credit card balance down to by the end of the APR period in December, I think you said?
I think, I'm going to take your ideas and your suggestions. I'm definitely going to get more scrutiny about how I'm spending my money. So I'm not just putting all lump sum at it at once. I've done the transfer balancing before, and before I know it, I was getting the transfer fees and the APR fees were catching up to me. So my goal, one of my bucket list items for this year, was to get that paid off or mostly paid off, like under $1,000 by the end of the year. So